Hi there, I'm back for books 10 through 12. So I'll just cover book 10 in this video. Good news is books 10 through 12 is the last section that you have to read for the Odyssey. Yay! But let's go ahead and figure out what happens to Odysseus in this section. So, last thing we read about was the Cyclops. That was a bit of a disaster for Odysseus. So after sailing from the Cyclops' island, Odysseus and his men land on the island of Aeolia. There, the Wind King, Aeolus, does Odysseus a favor. He puts all the stormy winds into a bag so they will not harm the Ithacans. The bull's hide bag containing the winds is wedged under Odysseus' afterdeck. During the voyage, when the curious and suspicious sailors open the bag, thinking it contains treasure, the evil winds roar up into hurricanes that blow the ships back to Aeolia, and Aeolus drives them away again. So, adventure number 5, after the Cyclops, Aeolus, the Wind King, tries to do Odysseus a favor. And there's not many people on Odysseus' journey that try to do him a favor, so it's kind of a big deal. If you can't have the god of the sea on your side, as Odysseus definitely does not, it'd be nice to have the god of the winds on your side, because you definitely need wind to sail home. So he tries to take all of the evil winds and put them in a bag so that Odysseus and his men are able to use the good winds to sail home, but Odysseus' men kind of ruin the situation. To be fair, Odysseus maybe should have trusted them and told them what was in the bag, but they did not trust him enough to take his word that they shouldn't open the bag. So, kind of a fail on both sides. So that's number 5. Number 6, second paragraph in the little italicized section. On the island of the Laestrygonians, gigantic cannibals, all the ships but one are destroyed, and their crews devoured. Odysseus' ship escapes and lands on Aea, the home of the enchantress and goddess Circe. Here, a party of 23 men, led by Eurylochus, goes off to explore the island. Odysseus is still telling his story to Alcinous and his court. So, location number 6, Laestrygonians. Since they're gigantic cannibals, you have to know that one's heading in a bad direction, so they eat a lot of people, again, more losses. So that brings us to location number 7, Circe. Now, Circe was mentioned in Book 9 as one of the women who detained Odysseus. Didn't give us a whole lot of hints about how she was going to detain him, other than the fact that it mentioned that she, A, desired him, and B, was an enchantress. So, going into that, we have these 23 men who are going out to explore the island. Odysseus is not with the 23 men. He's back at the ship with the other guys. So let's see what decisions Odysseus' men make when they run into Circe, who they do not realize is a very powerful enchantress. So starting with the actual text at line 539. In the wild wood they found an open glade around a smooth stone house, the hall of Circe, and wolves and mountain lions lay there, mild in her soft spell, fed on her drug of evil. None would attack. Oh, it was strange, I tell you. But switching their long tails, they faced our men, like hounds, who look up when their master comes with tidbits for them as he will from table. Humbly, those wolves and lions with mighty paws fawned on our men, who met their yellow eyes and feared them. In the entranceway they stayed to listen there. Inside her quiet house they heard the goddess Circe. Low she sang in her beguiling voice, while on her loom she wove ambrosial fabric sheer and bright, by that craft known to the goddesses of heaven. No one would speak until Polites, most faithful and likable of my officers, said, "Dear friends, no need for stealth. Here's a young weaver singing a pretty song to set the air a-tingle on these lawns and paven courts. Goddess she is, or lady. Shall we greet her?" So reassured, they all cried out together, and she came swiftly to the shining doors to call them in. All but Eurylochus, who feared a snare, the innocents went after her. So, the 23 men, led by Eurylochus, walk up to Circe's house, and the first thing that they see outside are these animals, these wolves and mountain lions. Now, normally, we're scared of wolves and mountain lions because they're aggressive and, hostile beasts. But these wolves and mountain lions were like hounds, like little puppy dogs. So they laid very gently and nuzzled up to the men, and the men were kind of like, whoa, okay, this is a little weird. That should have been a major red flag. So if you're going up to a house and whoever is in that house has the power to make these wolves and mountain lions just lay there, all chill, then you probably should think twice before walking up and being like, hey, how's it going? So when they first see Cersei, she is singing in her beguiling voice, and she has a loom, like something that you would weave like a blanket on. And she's singing, she's weaving, she's beautiful. So Odysseus's men think, nothing to be concerned about here, because, this, fragile looking, beautiful woman surely couldn't hurt us. Wrong. So the only one who was a little suspicious was Eurylochus. He was supposed to be leading the party of men, but obviously they're not listening to him anymore. So everybody else goes inside, and Eurylochus stays outside and kind of peeps through a window to see if this woman really is as sweet and gentle as she seems to be. So at line 565. On thrones she seated them, and lounging chairs, while she prepared a meal of cheese and barley and amber honey mixed with Pramnian wine, adding her own vile pinch to make them lose desire or thought of our dear fatherland. Scarce had they drunk when she flew after them with her long stick and shut them in a pigsty. Bodies, voices, heads, and bristles, all swinish now, though minds were still unchanged. So, squealing, in they went. And Cersei tossed them acorns, mast, and cornel berries, fodder for hogs who rut and slumber on the earth. Down to the ship, Eurylochus came running to cry, "Alarm! Foul magic doomed his men!" But working with dry lips to speak a word he could not, being so shaken. Blinding tears welled in his eyes, foreboding filled his heart. When we were frantic questioning him, at last we heard the tale. Our friends were gone. So, Eurylochus was totally right. As soon as the men went inside Cersei's house and she started, feeding them food and drink, etc., suddenly they were transformed. So she shut them up in a pigsty and changed them into pigs. So her idea of a joke, I guess. But Eurylochus, of course, was frantic, running back to the ship like, oh my god, all my men got changed into pigs. So, Odysseus. Does he leave the men behind, or does he go back for them? So historically, Odysseus is not one to just leave his guys to die. When we saw him with the lotus eaters, when the men ate the flower and they didn't want to come back to the ship, he dragged them back to the ship. So he's going to try something. So a little italicized paragraph at the very end. Odysseus leaves the ship and rushes to Circe's hall. The god Hermes stops him to give him a plant that will weaken Circe's power. Homer calls it a moly. It might have been a kind of garlic. Protected by the plant's magic, Odysseus resists Circe's sorcery. The goddess, realizing she has met her match, frees Odysseus's men. Now Circe, loveliest of all immortals, persuades Odysseus to stay with her. Odysseus shares her meat and wine, and she restores his heart. After many seasons of feasting and other pleasures, Odysseus and his men beg Circe to help them return home. She responds to their pleas with the command that Odysseus alone descend to the land of the dead, the cold homes of Death and pale Persephone, queen of the underworld. There Odysseus must seek the wisdom of the blind prophet Tiresias. Okay, so Circe, she started out as kind of an enemy, turning Odysseus' men into pigs. Ultimately, she becomes an ally. She becomes someone who tries to help him. So once Odysseus, confronts her, gets his men changed back into humans, all that's worked out. They hang out at Circe's for a while and have many seasons of feasting and other pleasures, which we can probably assume what that means. And then when Odysseus finally says, Circe, I really got to be getting home, she gives him some advice. She says, your way home is not going to be easy. I think you need someone who knows the future. Unfortunately, the only dude in the very recent, vicinity who's able to tell the future is dead. So Odysseus has to go to the land of the dead and go down into the land of Hades and find this prophet, this man who can see the future, so that he can say, hey, prophet, could you give me some help? Tell me the best way to get home, because I'm not having too much luck so far. So that is what book 11 will be, The Land of the Dead.